Now, at 9:06, I have to say it's an absolute pleasure to welcome to the studio Brenda Fricker, of course, actress, and I know you get fed up with people saying Oscar-winning actress, but you won it quite simply, so congratulations, and I've hoped to speak to you for a long time in studio, so thank you for coming in to us, Brenda, this morning.
It's a delight to be here.
I'm going to start with a little nugget which I found out just during the news bulletin, because you learn something new every morning.
Don't ask me what
it's
a woman just said, and I don't know.
Nora Casey revealed during the news, you spent how many years on Casualty? 5 years on Casualty as Megan.
Yep.
And you came back for a couple of specials, didn't you, as well? You came back
for the assisted death one.
And Nora Casey just revealed to Brenda and myself during the news that she used to be a consultant on Casualty because you were a nurse.
I was a nurse, and I was working at the Royal College of Nursing, and I also
not a consultant as in an actor, as the doctor.
Yeah. I did the P.D. James series as well, and then I did Casualty. So I used to go along and teach you guys how to do cardiac resuscitation, and I think you said you became so adept.
We had a lot of people in when we started, like on episode 1, because he didn't have a clue what we were doing. But by the time I left after 5 years, I was able to put stitches in and everything, you know.
And you were the person who used to show them how to do it?
She didn't show me how to put, the young doctor
not
showed
the stitches.
Me how to do stitches.
I did, my famous one was a case with somebody that had multiple sclerosis, and we were talking about the walk and the gait, and cardiac arrest was a big one. So in the early days when, the nurses were in first, there was a big issue about acting and how you portrayed some of those illnesses that you came across in accident emergency. I have to say
Did you think the Casualty was good though? Because
I have to say
really hard to
in the early days, very hard to get nurses to agree that their portrayal is anything other than, perfect. But I have to say it won a massive audience with nurses and doctors.
But each nurse, of course, has her individual way of doing things.
And Brenda, I think because your character in particular was flawed, like what was good about it is it wasn't portraying angels. It was saying here are real human beings that have their own difficulties in life.
Yeah. Do people still ask you about Megan? I mean, would that be the character? I was hoping, as I said, to speak to you for a couple of days, and a few people have mentioned Megan to me from Casualty. Of course, everyone mentions My Left Foot as well, but is there somebody that always, a character that always...
Did you kind of remember it, but there wouldn't be specific, the kind of thing, or you were in that hospital thing? Yeah.
Now, Brenda, I have to ask you, first of all, because I've read a good bit of stuff about you lately. How are you? Because there's different things being written about you, that you're in a bit of a, that you're a bit annoyed at this or that or the other, or the
go on. What am I annoyed at?
Well, you're annoyed, according to the IFTAs, you were annoyed at the presenters. Was that true or not?
News, that's
rubbish.
Old news,
Rubbish.
But it just wasn't a very good show, that's all I said.
You've done this interview with Sky on television, and the idea was that actors were interviewing actors.
Yeah.
So it was yourself and Anna Friel? Was it the actress?
Yes,
Anna Friel?
That was lovely.
And in that you said, I thought you were just straight to the point. You said certain things happen in life, and sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down.
Absolutely, yeah.
Are you up? Are you down at the moment?
I'm kind of, it's very early in the morning. I'm sort of levelling out.
Brenda, I was talking to you earlier that in the women's magazines I've been pretty much at the vanguard of talking about depression, because it's so important for women who work with me as well as women who read the magazines to talk about it. It's been that thing in Ireland where we don't talk about it nearly enough, and I admire the fact that you did talk about it.
I did talk about it, and when I first had it, it was in the early 50s when, the word depression, I always say, was just a weather term.
Yeah.
Nobody knew what depression was,
Yeah.
I have since, as I well publicised, went to David in Abbey Street and did this Mozart treatment and got rid of the depression. But paradoxically, what that did was open up my very clear view to what my real devils and demons are, and I can now see them more clearly and handle them better because of not being in that fog of depression. Do you know what I mean?
What was the Mozart treatment?
It's a treatment where you go in and you listen to Mozart every morning for 3 months, and you come out and you're cured.
Really? And we heard somebody recently talking to us about diet and supplements and...
No, tried all that.
Yeah.
Mozart works.
And do you think there's still a stigma? There is still a stigma around depression.
I think there is, but I think it's less. It's certainly less. Tony, what's his name? That lovely doctor. No, that lovely doctor who ran St. Pat's. He died recently.
Yeah. Anthony
Clare, good girl.
Yeah.
He, I think, left the legacy of lifting the stigma, because I was with him when he was, when St. Pat's was still called a madhouse, you know, and he was trying very hard to get rid of that stigma, but it is still there, yes.
It's very debilitating. I mean, did you yourself find it debilitating, or did you learn
I did while I had it, because it was, as I said to you, it's a silent, invisible illness.
Yeah.
And therefore it's desperately hard to get help for it, because nobody can see it, nobody can hear it, nobody can know what you're going through, and you just sound like you're bloody well moaning all the time, you know. But now I think people are much more alert in young people, you know.
The fact that you're so open about it, you know, when you have a dodgy heart and people in work come over to you, say, were you okay after that, or you have the surgery or something, people are more comfortable with going over and saying, you all right after that. But if you've been off for a little bit because maybe you were depressed or whatever, people still feel really nervous that they're going to do you harm by going up to a person and saying, are you okay? And you have been open about it. I know you're talking about the fact that things have changed, but you were open before they changed.
I was one of the first to come out, I think. Yeah. But people are funny, you know. I've been off the drink now for 20 years, you know, and I don't really miss it. I miss the crack, you know, and I haven't been in a pub since the smoking stopped.
Do you find it difficult to go into pubs?
I do, because I can't smoke, and I'm a smoker, you know. But people still say to me, like, you know, are you going out for a bit of crack? And I'm like, don't drink anymore. You know, give it up, but they won't kind of listen. They don't take it on board if they don't like it, because they want you to be part of what they're doing, you know. But it's a little bit the same with the depression. They keep at you saying, are you depressed? And you keep saying, no, I'm not depressed anymore.
And are people that open with saying to you, you know, are you depressed? Would somebody
I don't mind that at all, and I welcome that.
Okay, good. And you give a straight answer?
Yeah, I give a straight answer, yeah.
But you're cured now, you feel, through the Mozart therapy?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the clinical depression is gone, which was like a fog. It was like being in a room full of smoke all your life. And that has gone. And as I said, the paradox of that is that you now see clearly why you were depressed and what caused the depression in your life, in your childhood, and all those things that happened to me, which I don't want to go into in detail here, but they can still cause trouble in your life, but you can be in control of it much better.
I suppose just depression comes in many different forms, and I would certainly have worked with people who might have mild depression and they still get through their daily lives. With you, how serious was your depression?
Oh, crippling under the duvet for 3 months, you know, not able to move. It was absolutely appalling. It was really, really bad. In the beginning, when there was very little known about it, as I say, I was locked in padded cells and put in straitjackets. It was absolutely dreadful, you know. Then slowly, Anthony Clare, God, he really did do so much for it, you know. Yeah. And he was the one who took me under his wing. And
did people bring you through it, or did you push people away? Your friends, your family, did they?
No, I think I got through it myself with the help of a couple of good doctors on the way.
And what happens to friends and family while that's going on? Do they have to just?
They're all dead. All my friends are dead.
Really?
I'm at that age now.
Yeah.
What happens, like, in your life at the moment? I'm trying to get a feel for it. I'm a big fan of Albert Nobbs. I thought it was an amazing movie.
Well, I don't do much work in Ireland.
I was going to say,
They don't employ much in Ireland. I'm not quite sure. I think they still think that I'm a well drunken lady, which I'm not. But they don't employ me in Ireland. So I work in America, and I work in England, and I work in France. I just did a lovely, lovely film in France called A Long Way From Home, written by and directed by Virginia Gilbert, which I think is going to be a cracker of a film. So I'm looking forward to that.
Brenda, you're at that stage now in your life where you can choose which scripts you want to accept. I was talking about Albert Nobbs because I thought it was so beautifully done. It was such a beautiful story, very simple story.
I didn't want to do that. I mean, it was such a tiny part, you know. I'm glad Lois kept phoning me up, and I kept saying, like, it's a glorified extra. Jesus Christ, you wouldn't do that if you were asked to do it. He said, please, Brenda, please, Brenda. And I said, I can't go. I have a dog and I've nowhere to mind. Bring the dog. And all the excuses I came up with. So eventually I did it just as a favour for her. And I said, I've no script. There's no line for me to say. She said, you're running the kitchen. Just go in and keep talking. Just ad lib. So that's what I did.
What was Glenn Close like to work with?
Oh, she's one of the nicest people in the world.
Yeah. It was a great
She's
portrayal.
most elegant and sophisticated and genuinely humane, or if that's the right word, what I'm saying, a good human being.
Yeah.
Olympia Dukakis, same thing. Two people who really impressed me.
And what did you mean by they don't give you the work in Ireland? Is it that you're more recognised by people like Glenn Close who call you up? And have there been parts you've wanted here or parts you felt you should have been offered here?
Well, I don't know what's going on. The actors don't know really what's going on until you're sent a script.
Yeah.
There's loads of meetings with producers and money people and all that kind of before that. So I just haven't been asked to do much work, except by Noel Pearson and
people like that
who know me well.
What's
but
your
the new crowd that have come up don't seem to know me.
you must have something, the script you've always wanted to do. Is there something inside you that you've always wanted to portray?
I think I've done it. I think it was a cloudburst.
And the France film is obviously something that you...
And that is, I hope, going to be... It can't turn out badly. She's such a good writer and she is such a good director, and we had a wonderful cast. We had James Fox, who was wonderful, and myself and two young ones, and I just have a feeling that it's going to be great,
And the one you mentioned there, Cloudburst, I mean, it's a recent film. I mean, it's 2011, right?
Yeah.
And that's won an Oscar as well, hasn't it?
No, it should have won a whole pile of Oscars.
I thought it won some, but okay, but it's been, critically, it's been absolutely acclaimed, this movie.
It's won an award at every film festival it was shown in.
And who's in it with you?
Olympia Dukakis.
And why do you say that was the one you'd always been waiting for?
Don't know.
Just
had everything. It was just lovely. It was just a good story, well directed, well acted, I hope.
And do you have to audition still, or do you still have agents?
No, my darling, I never did an audition in my life.
Never in your life?
Never, ever in my life.
Why not? They come
because
to you.
I just don't know how to do them. I remember going into what's his name? I can't remember the man who directed the one all about the. Oh God, I'm trying names. It doesn't matter.
Alan? No.
Alan, yeah. It's an Alan. It is an Alan.
Who did The Commitments? No?
Yeah, no, yes.
Alan Parker.
Thank you very much, Alan Parker. But I was about, I don't know, young kid in London, and I went in a big room, and you walk all the way across on your own. It's terrifying. And he said, would you read that scene? And I said, no, I can't do that. I said, if I read that, I'll just prove that I can't read. I can't move, I can't see because I'm too nervous. And he said, well, good luck to you then, you won't get much work. And he kept calling me in for years and years. And I kept saying, no, I still can't do that. But I was getting loads of work elsewhere. I was working at the Royal Court, I was at the National, I was having a grand time. But I can't do an audition, I just can't do it. And I've just been lucky and got away with it. And the night I won the Oscar, Alan was there. He came up and he said he had the bigness of heart to apologise.
Yeah, that was big.
I felt very, very, very happy.
Did you?
Take us back to the Oscar and to My Left Foot. Was it unbelievable to be nominated? Do you know behind the scenes? And given it's a while ago now, but do you know that you're the one getting it, or is it quite literally that announcement on the night?
God, you're very young. You're very young.
So you knew?
We knew nothing about Oscars. I'd never heard the word Oscar in Dublin about anything. And a friend of mine phoned me up from New York. And I was very bad line, and my father was ill in the other room. And she was something about Oscar. She was saying I couldn't hear. I said, listen, I'm just dealing with my father. I'll phone you back. And I phoned her back, and I went in and said to my father, I said, that's Anne Mulligan on the phone, and she's talking about Oscar Wilde or I don't know what she's doing, some show or something. And I went back in, and she said, you've been nominated for an Oscar. And I said, what does that mean? An Oscar had never come near Ireland. I mean, we'd never been touched by that whole huge machine, you know.
And was it huge to her on the other end of the line?
If she was an American, she was going mad, saying like, this is a huge, enormous thing. And then slowly this din starts in the corner, you know, and it gets louder and louder and louder and louder and louder and louder and louder, and it takes her whole life over, you know, for a couple of months. But it was great to win.
And your speech, I watched it last night. They've put all of the speeches up online. I watched your speech, and I thought it was just so. You said it about Glenn Close in terms of human. You said Mrs. Brown, first of all, deserves one of these for having 22 births. And you spoke. You said thank you to Christy for being here, basically, or for being alive.
Yeah.
And was that just? It just seemed like it was just a person talking and saying, "I'm going back to Ireland with this." And it was a lovely speech. It was really lovely.
Well, thank you very much, because I had nothing written down at all, because we had 5 nominations. I thought Daniel certainly would win one. And I think there should have been 2. There should have been one for Hugh O'Connor, because he played Christy for half the film, you know. They should have had two Oscars for that award. Not taking away from Daniel's performance in any way. And I thought in my blood Daniel would get one, and then I was hoping that it would get best film. But I didn't think. I didn't think. And you were in with a chance. You know what I mean? Yeah. Kind of that fun feeling, you know. I was just there for a bit of show and do a few interviews and help with the publicity, but I didn't think I was going to win. So when they said my name, I nearly wet myself. You know?
Where is it now, actually, the Oscar?
Well, now that's a good question. It has been in many strange places, and it was in an old plastic bag under the kitchen sink or something. I got fed up with friends saying, listen, get that out and put it up. So I have this wonderful workman friend, indeed, called Stan, who's from Poland, and he made the most beautiful little stand for it. It's just slightly embarrassing.
No, it's
a bit
not.
showy off.
No, it's not showy off.
But then he got all the other awards that I had around the house, and he put them all on this wall. So it's kind of no.
That's a tribute for a lifetime's work, Brenda.
Yeah,
take a bow.
I don't like it very much.
I know.
Brenda, but thank you, Stan.
Can I ask, the Oscars, people think fame, people think fortune. Did life change that day?
Worst thing that ever happened to me.
Why?
Because I remember talking to Vanessa Redgrave about this. The year after she won the Oscar was the worst year of her career. The year after I won the Oscar was one of the worst of my career in England, not in Ireland. Because people think, number one, that you're going to cost 80 times more money than you were before.
Okay.
People think that you're desperately busy because you've hundreds of scripts and you're not available. And people think that you have changed when you haven't changed at all. They've changed.
They changed perceptions.
Attitude to you.
Yeah.
But I haven't changed.
So people are almost afraid to approach.
They think you're very busy, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is, yeah.
Because I My Left Foot's brilliant, but I actually think what you were remarkable of, and they were very remarkable for, was Maggie McCabe, and that scene with Richard Harris. Well, many scenes, but
eating
one
the bloody potatoes
where you don't
my
talk.
God.
Basically.
I never ate so many potatoes in my life.
Was that already filmed before the Oscar fate? Was the field already in the can?
No, but it had been nominated. And
Okay.
Richard was very funny. Richard Harris is very funny. He was running around saying, now Daniel, you'll win. And then he'd come back the next day and say, no, Daniel, you won't win. Brenda will win.
Yeah.
And he had all these theories, you know, and everything else. Blah, blah, blah. And then he actually, funny story, when you win, you go back the next year to present the best supporting actor. And Richard was nominated for The Field. So we were all out there together having a bit of crack or whatever. And Richard said to me, I'll give you £10,000 if when you open the envelope you say, and the Oscar goes to Esther Ranson. And I thought, oh my God, I haven't got the courage to do this. You know? So I didn't do it.
Good girl.
I said Joe Pesci. I was hoping it would be Al Pacino.
Brenda Fricker's with us in studio. We'll be back in a moment. Brenda Fricker is still with us in studio. Loads of people listening to you. They're saying lots of nice things.
Yeah.
Oh, goody.
She's like my mammy. That's what I say.
One person, Noel in Cork, said, I used to catch the bus in Bristol 22 years ago, and Brenda would be on it. She was on Casualty at the time. She always had a smile and a bit of a chat. I asked, did she think she'd get an Oscar for My Left Foot, and she modestly laughed it off. What a lady, said Noel in Cork.
How nice. Thank you.
And somebody on Twitter not being so nice. You've asked her about the two best roles. You've asked her about The Field and My Left Foot. But please ask Brenda, does she look back at anything and think, oh, what a stinker?
And do you want to answer?
No, I don't.
There's nothing you regret doing?
No, not a stinker. But I do look back on one film that is a kind of favourite, which is Brain Gone, Memory. The one with Michael Myers.
Oh, I don't know that one. I'll check that out.
I don't know if I can help you in there, but Maureen from Kilkenny, just a nice one. Nora, please say hello to Brenda from me. I don't know her, but I'm her number one fan. It really annoys me that we don't see more of her. She's an incredible actress. So as I've just agreed to be your agent now, Brenda.
Oh, so I married an axe murderer.
That's right, the good man. So I married an axe murderer. I think that's my one of my favourites as well.
That's one of your... Brenda, let's talk about what's life like for you, because people know when you say Brenda Fricker, people know My Left Foot, and they always say the Liberties. They always say, oh, Brenda still lives in the Liberties. She never left. You're still in the Liberties?
I am still in the Liberties, and I live a very, very private and very quiet life, very, very deep down under the radar. Particularly since I don't drink anymore, and you don't go to pubs anymore, so that your social life has to change.
Who keeps you company?
Not many people. Most of them are dead. I mean, Joan Bergen is my closest friend, I would say. She calls in on a Sunday, and I've a few people, but not many.
You just
quite lonely.
Walk the dogs.
Walk the dogs, I mean, every day there's another one. I mean, look, Maeve Finchy, all those people who went that week, I can't remember, there was 4 people who died that week.
You mentioned Maeve, and I know you spoke on the programme, and you took the call to talk about your friend, to talk about Maeve, and I have to tell you something, because I had gone out, and I've told you this before we came on air, but I was out in Maeve's house, and I knew Maeve to see, and I went out to interview her, because she couldn't come in to us for an interview, and when we were waiting on the technician, and she was waxing lyrical about you, and she had a lovely picture of you on her bookshelf as well. And I didn't know the relationship, I didn't know the backstory, but it was obvious that she thought of you as a brilliant friend and a brilliant actress as well. Which
I was deeply fond of her, and it was, as I say, I can't remember the names because I think I'm getting dementia, but there were 4 people who died that week, and I remember sitting at home and looking at the wall, and I was like shell-shocked almost. People are dying so fast of my generation, and of course I'm coming up the hill next.
When did you meet Maeve first? I was trying to... It wasn't with the Irish Times.
Don't ask me questions like that, because I can't remember the answer. I can't remember.
Was it in London yesterday. Or was it... Because she went to the Irish Times too. Yeah, you've known each other.
Maybe in the Irish Times. I really don't know.
Yeah.
Seems like I've known her forever. And then Kate Binchy, her first cousin, is a great mate of mine.
Brendan, people listening to you when you said to me earlier, all my friends are dead, and when you said to us just there that everyone who's at your wedding is dead, their heart breaks when they hear you say that, because they feel very fondly for you, even though they've probably never met you, because of acting, and because they think they know you and all of this. And people are asking questions like, are you lonely?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it self-imposed loneliness when you say you don't go out?
A percentage of it is self-imposed, but there is a deeper loneliness that is definitely because of the age I am and this sudden disappearance of friends. It was like, I say, a decade when that was just awful. They just all died.
On that, and you're speaking, and there are other people who you're speaking for who are in the same position. Who's letting you down, or whose fault is it? And I know what you're saying about your husband has passed and some friends, but from a society point of view, do people forget about each other, or are there things to do?
I think life has got very fast. I think it is true with computers and texting and telephones and all of that people communicate that way, and you don't get much face-to-face time apart from Skype maybe. But I mean, for somebody now in the old days, they go back 15 years maybe, you know, somebody would knock on your door, come in, have a cup of tea, say how are you, and sit down for an hour and have a chat and catch up on gossip and whatever that way. Or you'd go to the pub when I used to drink, and you'd, you know, catch up there. That's gone completely, you know. I can go for a whole week without talking to anyone.
Wow.
And would you...
With just text.
Yeah.
You spoke about 20 years without drink. Would you go, and you said people used to invite you out after that, but, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because when you don't drink, or when you choose not to drink, people are saying, well, why aren't they drinking? And would you go and have a coffee? Would you say, I'll come along and I'll have...
I did, absolutely, until they stopped the bloody smoking.
Oh, it's the smoking ban.
And then they threw me out completely. I thought, like this, no point to go in at all now.
When I spoke about the liberties, there's just this, and Dublin taxi drivers have this lovely fondness of you, Brenda, where they say, oh, you know, Brenda Fricker, and there's this neighbourly association with the liberties. But from what you're telling us, that's not there now.
No, it is there, and I would love to take this opportunity to say to every single person who is in the liberties that I was never welcomed into a community the way I was welcomed in there, as a blow-in. You know, I've never felt at home anywhere except in the liberties. I can walk up Meath Street and every single shop, every single stall has a nice comment. They're polite. They could see you a bit down. They'll crack a little joke. You know what I mean? I adore living in the liberties, and I know that I'll have, if I need help, if I'm feeling a bit down and fed up, I just have to open the door and shout help. And somebody will appear.
Brenda, I wanted to ask you, I was telling you during the break that my own husband died a year ago, and I found work very therapeutic, and you were at the point of saying that you found it therapeutic too when your own husband died.
Yes, I did. I worked like a Trojan after he died, and I don't think I really grieved for him properly. But now that I'm not getting as much work as I did then, I started writing a lot of poetry, but it's not for publication. It's purely like a hobby, like playing pool or whatever you do that entertains you. And I find that I'm writing a lot about him, and maybe that's coming out in that way now unexpectedly, that I'm kind of grieving for him now a bit late.
How long has it been?
I've deleted it. You know, I couldn't tell you the year he died.
Yeah, but nonetheless, you finding it therapeutic to write the poetry?
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe going back to, because work, even though it's therapeutic, sometimes makes you avoid dealing with the grief.
Absolutely, and I think that you say a year, God love you, that's very hard on you. And I would say that in another 2 years maybe, you'd need to have a good friend standing behind you to catch you, because that's when you fall.
Yeah.
You know?
Being that open about grief and about loneliness, is that just the parts of Brenda Fricker? I asked it earlier about depression, but it's sometimes uncomfortable to listen to what we've talked about in the last 30 minutes, because some of it's very sad, and yet your demeanour hasn't changed too much throughout, because you're just talking about it. That's the way it is. Is that Brenda Fricker?
Yeah, I think so. And I don't think loneliness has to be sad. It can be sad. But there are days when I love it. I mean, I really like being alone and knowing that nobody is going to come near me and turn the phone off and be completely alone. I was always a bit of an outsider, having spent so much time in the hospital as a child. I didn't mix with my peers. I was again always left as a bit of an outsider. But as well as that kind of loneliness, there is the kind of loneliness that everybody all over Ireland, there's houses with people like me sitting in it who are desperately lonely for someone to come in and have a cup of tea with them. Yes, I do feel that.
Do you feel you're going to retire now? Have you got more movies to do?
It's in my mind, let's put it that way.
Yeah, take it easy.
I'm thinking, if they come along with $1 million movie, I'm sure I'll be saying yes, but I mean, I'm certainly thinking of maybe it's time to stop. I'm thinking of it, yeah.
There's plenty of offers here of people who want to be your pen pal, want to come and visit you and have coffee. Don't blame them.
Brenda, the acting, and I mentioned Maggie McCabe and all of that. Is it a gift? Were you given a gift? Was it something you were just good at and it came naturally to you? Is it something you worked at and something you crafted back in when you were a younger person? or was it a gift? What do you look at? Because before you get modest, you do have something. That Maggie McCabe thing where you weren't speaking, you and Harris weren't speaking, is one of the most extraordinary pieces of film to watch. So where did it come from?
It came, that particular one you're talking about came mainly with Jim Sheridan's help, because he's a wonderful director. He really is. He drives you really mad sometimes, but he's a wonderful director. And he had said, you say nothing in this, and he just helped me, and he just told you what to do and what to think that would be seen in your eyes. And you know, when you have a director like that, you've no reason to complain if something goes wrong, if it goes right.
If he was sitting here, he'd say, if you have an actress like Brenda Fricker, you don't have to do anything. I'm not talking about one role, I'm talking about all of them. Where did it come from?
Well, Richard and myself had good chemistry, so between the three of us, let's say, it worked. It certainly wasn't all me. I mean, it was always the other two were there, you know.
Brenda, I didn't want to let you go without reading out a few of the texts. Love the show. Brenda is a role model for me, great actress and a real human being. That's from Margaret, I think, in Clontarf. My mum is a Liberty Belle, as is Brenda. They meet up on the first Tuesday each month. I won't say where, in case loads of people decide to join you and chat about old times.
It's not in a pub, I promise you.
I think you're a fantastic actress, Brenda. I'm so proud to say I'm Irish just like you. It's really nice.
Brenda,
That's lovely. Thank you very much.
There's a good chance that we spoke about this in the ad break. Just finally, people, we've talked about retirement, we've talked about all of this, but you said well, I'm saying that you are an Irish institution as an actress, and you are saying you're not finished acting. You're available for work, and Brenda Fricker, we're going to see her again.
I would be available for the right kind of work. Yes, absolutely.
€1 million to start at.
No, I did, that was a joke. No, I never worked. Money has nothing to do with it. But like Virginia Gilbert again, who wrote the film A Long Way From Home, is thinking of writing another film, and if she was doing that, I would be certainly interested in doing it as well. I mean, you know, because if the script is that good.
Listen to this. Brenda's performance in The Ballroom of Romance is the greatest performance by an Irish actress ever, said Liam. Wonderful interview, wonderful person. She's officially part of the Liberty, said Ted, not that you're a blow-in. And Martin and Blanche, thank you for sharing, Martin. I'm a hard bastard. Brenda has me in tears. What a lady.
Oh, my darling. God bless you.
Have you in tears, but she can make you laugh as well, Martin.
Brenda Fricker, it's been a pleasure.